It's communication for sure. It's a deliberate activity to raise your children to understand themselves first of all, to understand their growth processes. You have to be with them, and because it is not something you do like a school, like okay, today we are going to learn this and this. That's why you have to have a very, very cordial relationship with the children, because anytime you have them, these thoughts come out and you pass it on to them. But if you do not have a good relationship with the children, they will be running away from you.
Yeah.
You know, you'll be living in the same house, but you have to go looking for them. You don't want that.
Yeah.
You want to be this guy who is very interesting
Yeah.
and genuine and honest. Even when I want to maybe punish you,
Yeah.
I don't do it because I don't want to make you feel like I hate you.
Yeah, like it's personal.
No.
Yeah.
So that way, even you tell yourself, okay, I know I was wrong. I know my dad was mad at me, but he's so friendly. I think I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
I hate to see my dad being mad at me.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to, I don't mind. You know,
Yeah.
he's always yelling at me. Whatever. When he goes to work, I'll do what I want. That's rebellion. You want to be sure that your children take they take responsibility into their hands. You want to give your children freedom, but you also want to teach them responsibility, because you can be with them everywhere, and you shouldn't even deny them to hang out with their friends. But this part of responsibility is what is important.
Welcome to the Everything Young and More podcast. Today, I know you guys have been watching young people. You've been seeing young people on the podcast, and you're like, we need some older people on the podcast to talk to us about what the older people have to say. And I brought none other than my father, Mr. Peter. Let me not even introduce yourself. Introduce yourself. Yeah.
Well, Anthony, my name's, you know very well, Peter Mbuthia. And I'm a dad of 3 young adults. So I think I have a lot to talk about young people.
3, father of 3.
Yes.
Your first one being your favorite.
He would like to believe so, but I have no favorites.
It's still pending. Okay. Well, welcome to the channel. Let me just tell them what this channel is about. But I think you know by now, and having watched a few episodes, this is where we bridge the gap between the older generation and the younger generation, and actually the one that's in between. We're in between, and then there's ones that are coming after us.
Yeah.
And obviously, we are trying to bridge the gap between generations and also make an impact, and where we can also understand each other, because there's a line like that. There's something that's
a disconnect or something.
Yeah, that's there.
Awesome.
And we're just trying to do that.
All right.
So just tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you said you're a father, but I also know you're an author. Like, you just give us a little brief history of yourself, and then we can get to it.
Yeah. Well, I would also like to say that I also was a teenager, so I know how teenagers behave and how they grow. I went to schools almost monthly, and I had dreams too, and I had visions when I was young.
Yeah. And
what I realized is that when you get focused on those dreams, even though you don't achieve them at that particular time you wanted, you find that the times come and you're able to achieve one at a time. It's not something you do once. All the dreams that you have, you don't achieve them at once. Sometimes they are deferred, and it's okay.
Yeah.
As long as you have them in your mind. And so writing is one of those things that I developed a dream when I was very young, around when I was primary school in Kenya. And it is because also I was a very avid reader of books.
Yeah.
And so I said, one time I'm going to write books, because when you read, you develop some kind of knowledge which you think you want to share with people.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, well, I also got married, I think, at the right age. That's what I think I like to say.
It seems right when it comes to you, but when the age is on my side, it's not right.
Well, yeah. So parents have that attitude of trying to guide or sometimes we overguide. but I think I got married at the right time, looking back. And so, because I was 27 when I got married, and I had time to see my children growing. I had time to talk to them at their level. We have lived as a very close-knit family. And I'm hoping as we continue talking, some of the experiences will come up, which other people may want to borrow, and they will help them.
Yeah, you talked about your teenagehood and how your school was also smooth, but I have a quick question that came up while you were saying that. Why do you feel like nowadays, or maybe it's been there, it's just that I wasn't born then, but why is it that most teenagers, like, once you start hitting that teenage age, is that when you start becoming rebellious? Or your parents say that you're rebelling and you're, oh, we never expected this from you. Those type of talks. Like, why do you think that happens with most of us?
Well, let me say, first of all, it's not the young people's desire to rebel. It's just that, first of all, let's define what rebellion is. It's just a rebellion is going against the rules. You know, every family has some set of either written or unwritten rules, which mother and father talk about, and they tell you, don't do this, you know?
Yeah.
Because they're trying to shape you a certain way. And most of the time, those rules are designed based on the parents' past experiences when they were growing up.
Yeah.
So they think that maybe they went through a situation that they find was untenable or was not good for them, and they would want you to behave a different way. It's like they really want to micromanage you as children. And sometimes parents overdo, or they oversubscribe the rules and laws.
Yeah.
But children are supposed to grow naturally. You know, I have this thing which I keep saying, that children are very, very curious, and you will agree with me.
Yeah.
Like, they want to experiment. They want to know. When children are born, they don't know anything. They observe, they want to touch something, they want to ask a question, you know, just to find clarity.
Yeah.
But when you oversubscribe rules, you can't go so far, because you think maybe your child is going to be in danger, because that's what drives people. Like, I don't want my child to be in danger, and so you think of a rule and you put it. But growth is natural. You can't stifle growth.
Yeah.
So children are supposed to grow just naturally. So when you oversubscribe, then children reach a point where they want to go against those rules. Because you can imagine, when you cut a tree, that tree will sprout again.
Yeah.
Because it's a natural growth. Just the same way children want to find out and to know what's happening. So they will wait for you to not be around them, so that they can do exactly that thing you're saying they shouldn't do.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of rebellion we talk about. But even when parents become very tough on children, the way you talk to your kids also matters, whether they will listen to you and work with you within the rules that you have designed. It is always very important that when you're designing the rules, you do it together with your children.
Right, like a team.
Like a team.
Yeah.
So that they can cooperate.
Yeah.
You don't come and be very dictatorial and say, I have said.
Yeah. And I think that's very common with African parents.
Yes. I think I've also been a victim of somebody who has done that before. But then I'm always very quick to understand that I think that approach is wrong. Most parents don't realize that they need to change, because, you know, there's no manual for parenting. So we we parent children as they grow, and we also grow.
Yeah.
But it's important that you realize that when children start rebelling, you can tell.
Yeah.
They start isolating themselves from you. You know, if they are 2 or 3, they start hanging out together more often.
Yeah.
In the house, you used to eat together on the dinner table.
Yeah.
You find them missing.
Yeah.
They are communicating something to you as parents. Is that because I don't want to hang around you because you're just too much. But how do you ensure that you have a good relationship with your kids?
Yeah.
It's the communication part of it. So like I'm saying, when you're designing rules, let them understand why you're designing those rules. Because there has to be a mutual relationship between you and them. What is your responsibility as children?
Yeah.
And what is the responsibility of parents? You know, so that I don't stifle your growth, I don't stifle your creative ability. Because if I have oversubscribed rules, and you know this thing where we say sometimes it is good to break rules, it is because I have subscribed rules where you want to do something, but you feel like I'm standing on your way, and it's so important to you. So you say, okay, let me do it and face the consequences. You know, but if you have this understanding and you explain yourself, you know, then the parents should be in a position to understand where you're coming from, and allow you to execute whatever you want to.
Yeah.
It's really the role of the parent is to guide their children, not to stop them.
Yeah. And then speaking about kids becoming curious.
Yeah.
Or especially as we're becoming teenagers, we're entering into teenagehood.
Yeah.
We start getting into relationships.
Yeah.
You know, from a guy, I'm into a girl is into a guy. What do you think about those as a parent? You know, I mean, I know you've gone through your phase and now you're married, but like, I should probably be asking about myself too, but we're not gonna get personal. Yeah, but what do you think about that? Like, is that necessary for people growing up? Is it wrong? Is it like, what's your take on that?
Well, it's hard to talk about relationships without being personal. There's some element of being personal.
Yeah.
Because you have to, if I have to be very real, I have to give you examples.
Yeah.
Using myself. But relationships, there are two types of relationships, from my experience. There's one where you're just a friend, and that you just find yourself, you're a friend with the opposite, the girl. If you're a boy, you know, you used to play together, and then at that time when you are below the age mostly of maybe 10 or below, some people are early bloomers. They know how to get into an intimate relationship, because there's that normal relationship and there's an intimate relationship.
Yeah.
So early bloomers get into intimate relationship earlier.
Yeah.
But late bloomers also, some of them transcend the age of 12 and beyond, maybe 15, 16, even sometimes 18. And that's when they get into intimate. But largely, children are just natural friends. That's okay, you know?
Yeah.
But then they reaches this point where naturally, because you're growing, your mind grows. You start crawling out of your parents' cocoon.
Yeah.
In terms of, they help you to think. You know, in the house, there are so many rules, like I had said.
Yeah.
And these are the rules which keep you grounded in the house. But the rebellion comes when now you start growing your mind. And then your emotions also grow. You know, there's two types of growth. There is the type where you're growing physically.
Yeah.
Age 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And then there's the growth where you're growing your mind.
Yeah.
And your emotions. Those two are never seen, yet they form a very, very important part of a child's growth. Yeah. So when you hit teenager, all of a sudden, these two elevate very fast.
Yeah.
And they grow real fast. And now you can't catch up with the rules.
Yeah.
And that's when the parents want to prescribe so many rules, because they say, oh, they're seeing a lot of activities you're doing.
Yeah.
But now that's when you're rebellious, because what I'm feeling and what you're telling me are not in tandem. Like, things. I really need to do this because I'm being driven by my feelings and emotions.
Yeah.
And so when you're with a girl, you find that you get very intimate, right? Which may not turn out to be a good thing if not well managed. And the reason why parents get worried is because now when you get intimate and it turns out to be a physical, like a sexual activity, you become a parent very early, you know the consequences.
Yeah.
So they fear that. That's why it is shunned. Like, intimate relationship are very, very shunned by parents.
Yeah.
But from my perspective and experience, I would say that parents have to go ahead of their children. And how do you go ahead of their children? Is that you tell them what to expect when they become teenagers. It is an ongoing thing. it should be an ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
From when they were young, even when they're teenagers. Try to use yourself as an example. Like I use myself an example, either because I did or because I saw.
Yeah.
So that way I prepare you, so that when you start experiencing that attraction to a girl,
Yeah.
you know what it is. You know, okay, my emotions are now growing. My
Yeah.
feelings are becoming elevated.
Yeah.
And my dad said that within 2 or 3 years that will go away and then I'll stabilize.
Yeah.
But if nobody tells you that, you know, you don't know.
And you start hiding it first of all.
And you start hiding
because
it.
you're like, this is new. No one knows. No one has talked about this.
Yes.
And you start doing things on the side. But if your parent had told you about these things, then you would find it normal. That's why you can even have a conversation about it.
Exactly.
Because we have that open communication.
You know, all of us parents want our children to grow to be very good kids. But it shouldn't be a wish.
Yeah.
It should work.
Yeah.
You should put in deliberate work, or you should also make sure that you grow yourself as a parent in terms of knowledge.
Yeah.
Do a lot of research to know how you can help your kids. So I grew up in a situation where talking about sexual matters was a taboo. And you can imagine that was a real type of hell, because something is happening to me, but I don't know what's happening. And I just find myself like, I can't be in the house. I just need to go and meet a certain girl.
Yeah.
You know, this girl was my friend, and all of a sudden now I'm looking at her differently.
Yeah.
When I hit teenagehood. Yeah.
Yeah, like you guys were cool, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey.
Yeah. And I start being careful about how I dress, you know?
Yeah.
How I talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, girls mature earlier than guys. Yeah. Let me give you my experience when I hit teenage. Girls are the ones who, because they grow earlier, they're the ones who approach you. But the approach is usually very subtle.
Yeah.
They will buy you a gift, you know?
Yeah.
And because your parents told you, don't be close to girls, and you're like, do I take this gift? They'll ask me, where did you get this gift from? And then you'll say, it's so-and-so gave me. Don't you know that you don't need to be closer to a girl? You know, so would be very afraid of even taking gifts from a girl. Can you imagine?
That's crazy.
Yeah. Or they will cook something good.
So how do you ensure that, your kids are having healthy relationships? I mean, because first of all, you say, like, if you're being told don't be taking things from girls, like, how do you balance though?
Well, it's communication for sure. It's a deliberate activity to raise your children to understand themselves first of all, to understand their growth processes. You have to be with them, and because it is not something you do like a school, like, okay, today we are going to learn this and this. That's why you have to have a very, very cordial relationship with your children, because anytime you have them, these thoughts come out and you pass it on to them. But if you do not have a good relationship with your children, they will be running away from you.
Yeah.
You know, you'll be living in the same house, but you have to go looking for them. You don't want that.
Yeah.
You want to be this guy who is very interesting.
Yeah.
And genuine and honest. Even when I want to maybe punish you,
yeah,
I don't do it because I don't want to make you feel like I hate you.
Yeah, like it's personal.
No.
Yeah.
So that way, even you tell yourself, okay, I know I was wrong. I know my dad was mad at me, but he's so friendly. I think I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
I hate to see my dad being mad at me.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to, I don't mind. You know,
Yeah.
he's always yelling at me. Whatever. When he goes to work, I'll do what I want. That's rebellion. You want to be sure that your children take they take responsibility into their hands. You want to give your children freedom, but you also want to teach them responsibility, because you can't be with them everywhere, and you shouldn't even deny them to hang out with their friends. But this part of responsibility is what is important.
Okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, as you're growing, we're talking about teenagehood, and you're graduating, you get to high school, then you graduate high school, then you realize like the thing I don't wanna go to school for a certain thing. Like my thing that I want to do has nothing to do with school. Like nowadays, people do YouTube as a full-time job.
Yeah.
People do. For me, I'm a photographer, videographer, and those are things that you usually start young. How can parents support gifts that are not necessarily like the road that most parents expect you to take? Like I expect you to be a doctor, you know, that those things that your parents have expectations. Like once you finish, I expect you to go to a 4-year university, and then after that, you know, you're gonna get a good job, a good career. But not nowadays, especially most kids are not taking that route. It used to work back then, but it's not working now. And you find that a parent and their child are always not on one page, because the parents want this, and then the kids want this, and then they even like go days or years without speaking to each other. How can you like maneuver through that, or how should parents handle something like that or go about that?
You see, that's something I've thought about, and I observe a lot, and what you're saying is actually very true, and it is bringing a lot of conflict between parents and their children.
Yes.
Especially parents of my generation and older than me, those who are ahead of me. Most of us suffer from what I call deficit mentality, where when we were growing up, we had very less. And in terms of now careers and pursuing your dreams, we had very few careers that were highly paying.
Yeah.
And let me talk about it, particularly where we have come from as people of diaspora, meaning we come from Kenya and Africa.
Yeah.
And I know even many other people who come from maybe Asia, you know, and the Arabic countries, they also had this problem where very highly paying jobs were very few. We had just maybe doctors, we had engineers, we had pilots, and everybody wants a good life.
Yeah.
And because most parents did not have, they were farmers, and they only had food for subsistence, like enough for them to eat.
Yeah.
And then they would look for money to take their kids to school.
Yeah.
So what I didn't have, I want my children to go after. So I had this dream that I want to live a very good life. And for me to have a very good life, I have to have a lot of money. And the only careers that give a lot of money are these that are very limited, doctors and whatever. And so we think that is the route that our kids should also take for them to achieve the goal that I have.
Yeah.
It's like you're saying we want our children to live our dreams.
Yeah.
But now we are living in a very different environment right now. The economy has expanded. Some years back, like 30 years ago, we used to have an economy that is called a controlled economy, a very protected economy.
Yeah.
Each country protected their economy. So we didn't have people crossing over borders to go and find jobs in other countries. We didn't have the internet where you could work online.
Yeah.
And so you were just limited. Even if you had skills, you're just limited within your country. But there came something called liberalization, where now the whole world opened up its borders so that skills can cross borders. So that means we increased the number of careers that you can take. Like, let's take an example of a career like plumbing. You know, most people don't know that plumbing is a very highly paying job.
Yeah.
But where we came from, plumbing was just like a manual job.
Yeah.
So that's another skill that pays very highly. So parents have that deficit mentality, where they don't even realize that the economy right now is being run by gifts and talents.
Yeah.
And because of the internet, our children are able to have a wide array of what they can do. They don't have to be even employed. They know they can use the skills they have. They can develop their own skills. They know where they want to go.
Yeah.
But the parents are left behind. You know, that's now the disconnect. Parents are not catching up with their children.
Yeah.
You know?
And especially like coming to the States, like in diaspora, you have a lot of like there are people who probably won green cards or came here
Yeah.
and never expected to come to the U.S.
Yes.
Where you're like as a parent, you're first generation, but you're raising a kid who was probably young or probably 4 years old or less than 13, and they're growing up in this system.
Yeah.
But then you're trying to train them in the ways like you grew up in Kenya.
Exactly.
And I'm seeing that there's a very huge disconnect with a lot of teenagers and young adults in the States with their parents because their parents are forcing things that worked in Kenya that don't work here.
Yes.
And how do you even deal with like, because some of those relationships that I've seen don't even they don't reconcile. Like it gets so bad to where it's like, you don't understand me, I'm out. Like, do you?
Yeah. It's just the way I've told you. Most parents live in the past, and they don't want to grow. They don't want to catch up with the trends. Life is about mobility. You move from one level to another one. But if you don't want to upgrade yourself, even in terms of knowledge, you would not know what is happening.
Right.
But our children know what is happening.
Yeah.
And they have seen examples, and they have role models. They know for sure that there is a certain guy, maybe somebody comes on YouTube, they want to share their experiences, just the way we are sharing experiences here.
Yeah.
And somebody tells you, once I was done with my high school,
Yeah.
I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I had to go to college, I was going to maybe spend 4 years
Yeah.
learning something that I'm not passionate about because my parent has told me.
Yeah.
And then I would have to come back again and start doing what I'm passionate about. So in that context, if somebody thinks, okay, I'll have wasted 4 years, there has to be a discussion between parents and their children. That's why I'm telling you, relationship between the parents and their children is very important, because you also have to sell yourself to me as my child.
Yeah.
As my kid. Let me know. It should be an ongoing conversation where you tell me, oh, you see, Dad, I like doing this and this, and I should see you doing it.
Yeah.
I should see the passion in you.
Yeah.
It should be so compelling that I have no alternative but to give you way.
Yeah.
Well, you would think that giving way should be natural, but because you are very resistant, because we are thinking we want to design our children for success.
Right.
That's why I'm telling you, we micromanage our children, and that's something parents should start letting go. Letting go doesn't mean necessarily that we let you do whatever you want to do, but we guide you. There should be a back and forth communication.
It's that thing where, for example, if I have for example, I'm a photographer now, a videographer, and then I also need to play my part to come and paint that picture for you. Because, for example, you said you lived in a time where there were only certain jobs that people could work, right? So, and then I'm coming here to tell you something else. And then, first of all, it's going to shock your brain because you're like, oh, my God. Like, does that even have money? How is he going to sustain himself?
Yes.
But then I need to be able to paint it for you. You know how you're even talking about how people are on YouTube now and be like, oh, so-and-so did this. And this is how it worked out for them.
Yeah.
And I kind of have a blueprint of how that worked out, right? That's what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Paint that picture.
Even sports, let's take an example of sports. Where I've come from, largely sports was for free. You never got paid for being a sports person.
Yeah.
Whether soccer or being an athlete. Athletics became paying sports very late. But even when they used to be given some money, it's just like some stipends.
Yeah.
And so parents would think, oh, you're wasting a lot of your time there practicing and you don't gonna get money.
Yeah.
But now these sports have been professionalized. Not only in the US, because US has led the way, or say the Western countries, but because of the internet and the accessibility to information, now people can see that these sports pay.
Yeah.
And if you had a passion for one of the sports, you start designing a route of how you're going to get into that league of being paid.
Yeah.
And in Africa, for example, I want to continue giving you examples about Africa because I have a lot of experience there.
Yeah.
Corporates never used to sponsor sports, like companies, private companies that, and even when some of those which used to sponsor sports, they wouldn't pay as much. Here largely in the Western world, corporates pay people in form of advertisement and all that, and huge amounts of money.
Yeah.
You know, so you get paid for your gift. It's about time. The parents of today,
Yeah.
even if you are as old as how, to understand that the situation has changed.
Yeah.
The ground has shifted.
Yeah.
You need to catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys are so swift, so fast.
Yeah.
We are unable to catch up with you. And that's what is bringing conflict, because I still want you to do what I told you to do. Tony, I told you have to go to college and finish college, because after college, that's when you'll get a good job. And when you get a good job, you'll live a good life. You know, it's so guaranteed that you'll get a job, you know?
Yeah.
And you end up, getting that job, but you're not satisfied because you're making 4,000.
Yeah.
But you know you have a potential to make 10, 100,000.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and I think that's a question. The question I'd like to pose is like, would you rather, support your child in what like they're doing and see how it pans out, or the vice versa? It's like, or go on and not and tell them what you think they should be doing, and then mess up your relationship, because that's. And I'm talking from like experiences of people that I know where that happened, and they don't even understand and the thing is, it's so funny because even for our African parents or our Kenyan parents, they tell us that they came to the US to bring us to study. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's like, when you say that also, it's like you have a program for me. Like you're gonna come there and then I'm supposed to fit in some system. Like I can't think by myself. Like I'm just supposed to follow what you, but when you come here, especially here in the States, we're taught to be thinkers. Like think for yourself, do your own things. Like try this, try that. And even when you're starting businesses, they have funds, they have all these things.
Sure.
But when you come here, you're telling me you want me to be like this. You want me to. I'm here because I want you to study. I want the best for you.
Yeah.
But then I get to school or I get to college and I'm like, oh man, that's not what I want. Like, and then we start having commotion, and I'm like, shouldn't you? Why would you want to lose? Because at the end of the day, when you came here, you wanted me to have a better future. And then I'm trying to paint a picture for you, for me to have a better future, but you're not, and would rather disconnect, because that's what happens if you don't kind of help me.
Yeah, it's because most parents are very static with change.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, they came here, once they got the green card, they were like, hallelujah, now my kids are going to go to the best universities in America. And that is informed by the fact that when we were in Kenya, we used to see people who come to study in America, and then they come back to Kenya living a very good life. Like they have the best jobs in government, they have the best jobs in corporate.
Yeah.
And so that stuck in us.
Yeah.
And we wanted to do that too, but we couldn't. Now that I have had the opportunity to come to the US, oh my God, my kids are going to be the best.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to micromanage them and direct them, But then you come here, this is a very entirely different environment. First of all, the culture shock itself, So me, I'm living in the past, but you're living in the present and adding on to what you're learning.
Right.
You know? So that's where the disconnect is coming from. And that's why I'm saying it is important that communication is key. I keep saying that.
Yeah.
So that even me as a parent, I really need to tell my children or to teach my children how to talk to me, how to express themselves to me. If they're not expressing themselves, I should take a step back and now realize, okay, this my children have something to tell me, but it seems like they don't know how to communicate.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're frightened.
Are you saying that's like the parents' responsibility to try and do
Yes,
that?
it's the parents' responsibility, because I want to know you.
Yeah.
And when I look at you, if I have a relationship with you, Tony, I will know that there's something that you want to communicate to me, but you just don't know how to communicate to me. And because I want to know it, I think it is my responsibility to create an environment or a way in which you can be able to express yourself to me.
Yeah.
So once you express yourself to me, then I have to see the reality of it and not be so static.
Yeah.
So that we work together,
Yeah.
So now you can tell me, okay, Dad, even as early as when you're still in high school. Because every kid knows their parent.
Yeah.
You start telling me, okay, I think this is what I'm thinking I should do.
Yeah.
Most parents will tell their kids what they want. Like, have you heard people being asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't like that question.
Yeah.
Because you don't know.
Yeah.
And even if when you feel what you want to be, it could be so different from what is being prescribed.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to communicate it to me. How am I going to tell my parent, like, I want to be a swimmer, for example? You know?
Yeah. And I think that's true because I remember even me when I started figuring out what I wanted to be, I wanted to be a teacher because I saw that's like the thing like everyone else was doing. But I don't even know where that thought came from. I think it's just because that's what everyone else wanted to do.
Yeah, maybe teachers looked cool.
Yeah.
They put on very nice shirts.
It was more acceptable. Like if I told you I was a teacher, you would be like, oh, yeah, go on. But then if I was like, I want to be a photographer, then you'd be like, a photographer? Like,
yes.
You know, bigger picture. Like, you take photos, like, why?
And even parents right now, I think you have changed the thinking.
Yeah.
You have changed the thinking of photography in America, which is a kudos to you.
Yeah.
They used to think, okay, photography is just taking photos and during Christmas. Are you going to wait?
You know how they used to come with a bike and then they just park it, they take 2 pictures, take 2-3 months.
So my first thing would be, okay, Tony, are you going to wait until Christmas or Madaraka Day or these other holidays for you to make money?
Yeah.
You should be making money on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Take a regular job.
Right.
That's an easy route.
Yeah.
But are you going to use your full potential?
No.
Are you able to listen to yourself and know exactly what is it that is in me? You know, everybody has a gift.
Yeah.
I think we are very poor in listening to ourselves.
That's true.
You know, we should be listening to ourselves. Take time and be by yourself and decide, okay, this is me. This is my destiny. And sometimes breaking the rules, like we have said, being rebellious is a positive thing.
Yeah.
Because you decide, okay, me, I'm going to do this thing, and I have figured it out exactly how I want to do it. And I know I don't have your support. Of course, your support is very important.
Right.
But since it doesn't seem to be coming, I'm going to go ahead and do it. But then you do it very respectfully. You know? Trust me, once you start making progress and the results start coming, you know, parents start coming closer to you.
Yeah.
And they start talking positively about you. Yeah, have you seen Tony? Have you seen my son?
Yeah. Or they hear from people outside first.
Yeah, they hear from people.
Yeah.
That's what happens. So somebody comes here, one of my friends, a parent, and they tell you, I saw Tony. You know that guy?
Yeah.
Those photos, they are very professional. I'm like, what? What? Somebody's validating Tony out there?
Yeah.
And I'm here?
Right.
And I can see it?
That's crazy.
You know?
Yeah.
So you also need to know exactly what you want. Because it's your life. And once you start to make progress, I think I'll forget that I ever stood on your way. Yeah. And you'll have broken some barriers. And I can encourage young people really to break barriers.
Yeah.
Try to find a way of communicating your desires and your visions and your dreams. But even though sometimes parents may be reluctant to embrace them, don't give up. A lot of success stories where people use their personal gifts.
Yeah.
Even when you see most of these companies, people just started, you know, without just something called passion alone. Somebody waking up, sitting somewhere, getting on YouTube to research, finding books to read, to up their mind, their knowledge. Yeah. You know, even going for a vacation or something. Yeah. Or seminars, you know. Yeah. Because everything is about knowledge. When you go to school, I'm not against college. And you know, if you're not, you don't have a gift that is expressed. Yeah. You'd rather go to college. Yeah. Because even if you end up studying something that you will not come to use, you have spent 4 years of being productive in a way, rather than hanging out around home. Yeah. If you are within the home and you're not doing anything, really, you know, you should show initiative. And I think that's where the problem comes in between parents and children, when you are not doing something. And parents don't want that. I mean, even for yourself, it's not good, because that's when now you expose yourself to a lot of other negative issues. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. The last question I want to ask is, as we wind up, how does somebody, or whose responsibility is it, for a severed relationship, like between a parent and a child? Yeah. Like how should it be the child that goes back to the father, like we see in the Bible, or should it be the father reaching out? Because you find some cases where things just didn't work because maybe somebody never watched this podcast. They don't know what we talked about, so they never applied any of those things where we've mentioned, and things are bad. How can somebody fix that, or whose responsibility is it to go and reach out first and try to make that work and build that relationship?
Good question. So the parent is the adult in this case, and even the example we have used of the Bible of the prodigal son, you would see that the father was reluctant to even accept that that child should go that way because he felt it wasn't right. But he remained open.
Yeah.
Even when the child decided to go and do whatever he did.
Yeah.
He remained so open so that even when the child came back, he embraced the child.
Yeah.
So it is a responsibility of parents to, like I said, first of all, if you don't have a good relationship with your child or your kid, know or learn that it is your responsibility to have a good relationship with them. Relax the rules. Some of the rules that don't work, just discard them.
Use them. Yeah.
Just discard them.
Yeah.
You know, as your child is growing, and like I said, they are maturing, trust them. Trust that they have something to say.
Yeah.
Trust that they also know something, you know, and you start letting go and allowing that child to come closer to you so that when they start making suggestions, even from the home, some of us parents are so static, like there's something I can do. Probably, Tony, you know, there's a potential I have.
Yeah.
But I don't seem to be going after it.
Yeah.
I should allow you to tell me, Dad, you know, I think you can do this, you know? So same way, when I start mending my relationship with you, I start instilling confidence in you, and you start relaxing yourself. If you are enraged about me, you start becoming friendly.
Yeah.
And now you start opening up, and we mend relationship. But I also usually say that when you grow and become an adult, there should reach a point where you should think, okay, I think my parents don't see what I'm seeing. And I'm not going to be mad at them all the time.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do so that they see.
Yeah.
Action part of it is the icebreaker. Like when you do something and people see.
Yeah.
You know, seeing is believing, they say.
Yeah.
So be very strategic. It is important that you want to have a good relationship with your parent. It is something very, I think, on a spiritual level, it is something that it's there, and it has to be there. I'm telling you, Tony, even if you become very successful, and you have a very big house, and you have an aeroplane, but you don't have a good relationship with your parent, something inside you will be missing. You feel like you're not fulfilled.
Yeah.
So it is important that now you relax yourself and say, okay, I'm going to hang out with my father, even though I know sometimes he overreacts, but I'm not going to invest a lot of emotions in that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be just cool and gentle.
Right.
And just ride along with what he says. At the same time, subtly, in a very subtle way, try to change him. You can do that.
Yeah.
Children have that ability to change their parents to think a certain way, a better way, by not being aggressive with words, but just changing them subtly. Or even doing, like if I have a phone that is always dying, the battery is always dying or something like that, and you know I have money, you can always come up and tell me that, you know, actually you can buy another phone and don't have to pay everything. You know, pay on monthly basis. And then go. Yeah. Let me think about it.
And by the time you know, you're like, wow, that's such a bright idea.
Serious.
Yeah.
Or you can tell me that, you know, right now, the houses are selling very well. You know?
Yeah.
Can you think about it? Like, you know, you break down.
Yeah.
You do research deliberately.
Yeah.
And you come and lay the facts on the table. And don't have an argument with me. Like, you know, I'm very resistant maybe to do certain things.
Yeah.
Just leave me. So by and large, you start influencing me. And that's what I would encourage young people to do. Once you become a mature person, start to behave maturely. Start to reach out to your parents too. There should be a movement where you're coming up and I'm coming down. And ultimately, because you're the ones who are out there meeting, mingling, having a lot of information, being very current, that's how you get the power over me, because information is power.
Yeah.
You always know stuff, and whatever you know, you actualize it, and it becomes a real thing.
Yeah.
I will trust you.
Yeah.
I will not even know how I came to trust you because it will be so seamless.
It's subtle.
Yeah,
The way
yeah, very
came to
subtle.
be.
So that's something you should know. It's important for you to know yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Sir Peter,
Yes, sir.
father of 3, thank you so much for coming here and sharing.
Mm-hmm.
I learned something,
Yeah.
and I sure hope that everybody that's watching has learned something as well.
Mm-hmm.
In just 30 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
I know you're an author. I know you did not tell me to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and plug your latest book. I know it talks about, just tell us what it's about and then where we can find it in 30 seconds to that camera.
Yes, like I said, I'm a writer, and I like to go after knowledge. And so, as a writer, when you acquire knowledge, you want to share that knowledge. And so there's this one time when I realized that I need to talk to young people about how they transition physically, emotionally, spiritually. And I put together a story in a book called No Girl is Limited. And so I'm talking about how it's actually about relationship between parents and their children. It's also about trying to elevate the girl child to know that she's equally competitive, you know. And there's a part which is also very relevant to what we are discussing here, where I'm talking about teenage and infatuation, where infatuation means a very deep feeling of attraction between, let me say, teenagers. And they get so connected to each other and they confuse that to be love. But it's just a feeling, which is so fleeting because within a very short time it disappears. And they find themselves on getting another friend and they get connected the same way. And that dies within a very short time. But there's a difference between real love and infatuation. Real love is when you start to decide, okay, I have somebody who maybe we can have a future with. I have somebody who we can share dreams with. It's not so much investing your feelings and emotions, it's about your thought, you know? So it is important. And I'm also talking about parents, how to parents should raise their kids based on the experiences that I have. Communication is key. You know, the relationship between a parent and a child starts when the child is in the womb. For example, when my wife is pregnant and we fight, or I'm very aggressive with words, the child in the womb will perceive those emotions or negative emotions, and they'll be scared.
Yeah.
That's something parents should know. And when they are born, when I speak, they can pick up those frequencies because my voice transcends matter. You know, when you're in the stomach,
Yeah.
they can pick those frequencies. And so when they come out and they hear that, they hear those negative words that they can relate with.
Yeah.
That's why you see maybe sometimes a dad wants to hold the baby and the baby is always crying because they can feel uncomfortable. So if you don't have you should have a good relationship even when your wife is pregnant. I'm talking about in the book.
Yeah.
So that's the beginning point. And start working with your child as they grow, you know, and upping your game, going ahead of them and knowing this is how I want to raise my children, you know, seeking for knowledge, extra knowledge about how to raise them so that you can have that good relationship.
Okay. And where can they find the book at?
The book, I'm selling it by myself and through my social media handle on Facebook at Peter Mbuthia, on Instagram at Peter Mbuthia, and on Twitter at Peter Mbuthia. And the book is also available in Kenya at a bookshop called the Nuria Bookshop along Moi Avenue.
Thank you, guys. You've heard it. You've heard from my father. If you want to get more about him, check out the book, learn, reach out, and hope you've enjoyed this episode. Make sure that you share with your friends. Comment, let us know what you think, and I will see you guys next time.